and you walk out to 60,000 people shouting your name, and you can hear it from the back.
Welcome to another edition of Take 5 with Cohesion Plus, and today we've got a very, very special guest in the house with us today. Popsy, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, Govinda. How are you keeping, mate?
Very good. Really pleased that you're able to join us on our humble little show. Popsy is one of the leading music producers in the Bhangra industry, so really, really pleased that you are joining us today, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for having me alongside you.
First things first, how did you deal with the lockdown?
For me, it really hasn't affected me whatsoever because being a producer, we're normally in dark rooms working away anyway. So, no, it generally hasn't affected me, apart from the fact that every time I leave the house, I have to wear gloves and I have to wear a bit of a mask now.
Has it been a productive period for you in terms of forthcoming production?
It has. Yeah, definitely. I think, to be honest, I'm a huge learner, and this is just sort of giving me, when the lockdown actually started, it gave me an opportunity to finish off a lot of ends that I needed, that had just been sitting there for a few weeks prior to that. So it enabled me to catch up, but at the same time, it's just been it's been a huge learning process for me, just sort of catching up on the latest software that is out there, and just sort of practicing keyboard skills, because normally you're just working away in studios and not actually sort of doing what I suppose what my main job is, to sort of rehearse being a musician as well.
So Popsy, I'd be really interested if you could maybe share, your journey, your kind of musical journey. From how did you start out in the music industry? Did you come from a musical family?
We used to have my brothers used to have a band. It used to be called Nazara Group, if I remember correctly. And being a youngster, they used to have band rehearsals, and I used to always go down there. And I always had this little infatuation with keyboards, and I used to sit next to the keyboard player, just look, basically not even bother about what they're playing, but always just sit there and look and listen to and see, this guy playing these black and white notes. And slowly went and bought my first Casio keyboard, little one. It was only like a couple of keys long anyway. That's where my actual beginning sort of got, I began with playing keyboards. And then later on in life, I think the big step came when I went to uni in university in Birmingham. I was told that I was going to meet three guys, and they happened to be Ambi Bilga, Mishi Shara, and the music maestro himself, Sukshinder Shinda. And what they'd actually come there to do was to see me play some keyboards on some demos that I was sent by Ambi. At the time, Ishara Group, who the lead singer Mishi was, he needed a keyboard player. And little did I know that, they're going to say to me, they sent me these demos, they go, learn them because you might be doing a gig on the weekend, but these three guys are coming in to see you. Shinda was very sort of quiet, but he did open the conversation, and he goes, okay, let's see what you can do. And I played some of their songs. And the only thing I always remember Shinda saying, he goes, you're all right, mate, but we'll have to straighten your hand out a bit. And that was it.
So do you remember your first gig then with Ishara?
The first show went down well, and then I remember that even the second show I actually remember more, because we were playing in a community centre, a massive community centre, and at that time, the era of the Punjabi Bhangra bands, so what they used to be, every single musician must have turned up to this daytime show. And I'm so hectically nervous, because you got band members from the DCS, you got band members from Satrang, you got Pardesi's band, basically the DCS, all the musicians are there. And they're seeing this new guy on a keyboard who's nobody's ever heard of. And I could see it, everybody staring at me. But to be honest, that was my first kind of introduction and welcome to the UK music, Asian music industry, which I wouldn't forget, but it was definitely a memorable moment for me.
So I remember the first time we met, you was playing with Mishi Shara, and then you kind of, moved on at some point onto obviously Jazzy. How did that link up come back with Jazzy B?
The link between Jazzy and Mishi has always been there, because Mishi's known Shinda, since Shinda was himself a very young kid. And them being brothers, and Shinda's been playing, especially the Indian percussion with him for so many years. And it wasn't actually, for me, it was never two bands. It was always Ishara. Whether you play, if you play for with Mishi, you're going to be playing with a band called Ishara. If you're going to be playing with Jazzy, you're going to be playing for a band called Jazzy being the Boys. But the whole team was generally just one team. And which even till today, it's just a brotherhood that still continues on with, with all the rest of the band members. We've got such a strong bond. That it's become like family to me. So and I never ever saw it like a band, and I think the other band members never saw it as a band. And I think that was one of the reasons the actual Mishi Jazzy B Sukshinder band it's been a family movement instead of a band.
So tell us a little bit about your kind of career overseas. You performed all over the world. What's it like going out and being the kind of the musical kind of maestro when it's all on you and your keyboard?
When we played at one of the biggest career moments was when something like Wonderland. It's a huge venue in North America, Canada. And when we played there, and you walk out to 60,000 people shouting your name, and you can hear it from the back, Shinda Jazzy. And, it was almost a thing that became a kind of a thing, for a routine for us, I should say, that, I used to be the first person to walk on stage, and the rest of the band would always walk behind me. I don't know if it was a good luck charm, but that's how it was. And I tell you, I used to kind of cringe for that first moment. But it was only for that first moment, that initial few notes that you play on the keyboard. And I'll never forget that feeling and the buzz I used to get. You've got 60,000 people and the crowd are going absolutely manic, and they're just waiting for the superstar to come on stage, and, you're controlling the whole background kind of noise that people want to hear. So, and the songs that we were performing to were iconic. So, yeah, it was fantastic. I've had a brilliant career abroad.
So from obviously being a kind of musical director, keyboard player, doing your stuff, you've obviously then gone into producing as well. How did that come about, and was the transition easy?
How the production came about is, again, it stems back to my early years back in uni, and becoming such close friends with the maestro himself, Shinda, is finishing uni and going straight to whichever studio it was at the time, whether Coventry Planet Studios in Coventry or Famous Studios in Bromsgrove, whichever studio he was at, I would go flying there. And I'll tell you, sometimes we wouldn't finish sessions until 8 or 9 o'clock. Most of the time, I wouldn't do nothing. For me, it was just the massive passion I had just to sit in the studio and see how music is created. How from just a few poetic words comes this melody, and then how Shinda used to build on it. And it was a kind of a dream for me to become a producer. And at the time, you had to be linked to a record label, or somebody had to sign you up. It was such an expensive thing, such an expensive game to get into. I spent, I would say, at least 7, 8, maybe 10 years in the studio in the background and playing live with Jazzy before he actually said to me, and a lot of the other band members at the time said, why don't you give it a go? If you don't give it a go, you've got this little urge in you that you want to become a music producer. Yeah, finally I took the step, and the first session was at Planet Studios. I remember it. And I'll tell you what, I was more than producing. I was the pounds, the hourly rate of £25, £30 was ticking in my brain. I've never actually spoken to no one, but that's how scared I was, because I know it was costing me continuously. And I don't know if that kind of hindered my production quality. Because these guys are going to be paying, I don't know, whatever it was at the time, but those and you got a very small budget, and you got it in your back of mind that I don't want to make nothing. I just want to make really good music. So, and that happened to me for, I would say, a good 5-6 years. It wasn't about making the money; it was for the love of making music that kept me going in those early days.
So, in terms of the musical production process, how has that changed over the years? Because obviously I'm guessing with technology it's made it more accessible.
Absolutely. I mean, every kid's got either a MacBook or they've got a PC sitting at home. They've got the software to create music, which I would say is great that everybody's getting into it. But there is an aspect of it that I think there's a bit of a downfall to that as well, where everybody appears to able to get these beats or get some drum kits from somewhere, but do they know how to put it together? Not all of them do. This is one of the reasons that the whole music industry globally is so saturated with, I don't know, maybe 100 songs coming out a week or maybe less, but there's a lot more product coming out. But I don't necessarily mean it's all quality. But yeah, it's good luck to anybody who's trying to. But like I would say is, learn the craft first.
What advice would you give to someone who's maybe starting out in the music industry?
I think the key one is, number one for me, is learn the trade first, understand the trade, because getting into music production, you can go and get a computer, but it's a very expensive trade to get into. And I'll tell you the reason behind that is even though you've made your song at home, you've got it mixed by somebody and you've paid them a couple of £100, the process of getting it released is easy via iTunes or Amazon. But when you start approaching TV stations, social media outlets, I won't mention them, but when you start adding the cost of that on there, it can go, a song can go into its thousands. And that's just to get it put on there. Being an artist, being a music producer or a singer is a beautiful thing, but learn the trade before you get into it, because if you're going to take it seriously, don't treat it as just a hobby, even though a lot of people do treat it as a hobby, but that is what I would say, learn the trade.
Okay, now Popsy, just before we finish, quick fire, yeah? Cristiano Ronaldo or Wayne Rooney?
Ronaldo.
And there's a question we ask all our guests, Nandos or pizza?
Pizza.
You're the only second person so far has come out in pizza.
You know what, Govinda? I can't stand Nandos. I've been to Nandos probably twice in my life, and that is because somebody's dragged me there. I was watching your interview with Amit Chana yesterday or the day before, and he said something about the dough being fat. I absolutely don't like chicken, so I don't know. I'm a pizza person.
Thank you ever so much, Popsy. Great to have you on Take 5 with Cohesion Plus.
Thank you very much for having me. Cheers, mate.